In today's video, I'm going to talk about sugar crash, and I'm going to share with you 3 of my top 3 solutions in how to control this crash. And if you stay till the last, I will share with you my last bonus tip which I've been using for the past 6.5 years. So what is sugar crash? Sugar crash is when you consume a very high carbohydrates diet or high in sugar, starchy food diet. When you consume high amount of carbohydrates, they are turned into sugar in our blood, in our body. So when you have high blood sugar in your body, the hormone insulin will be secreted out to transport this blood sugar to other tissues. For example, you'll be stored as an energy for later use inside the liver and muscle. Then the excess will be stored in the fat tissues. So you recap a little bit. So when you consume a high carb diet, you have a very high sugar in your body, in your blood. Then the insulin will be moving this blood sugar out of your bloodstream to other parts. So now you're back to the low blood sugar again. So when you have low blood sugar, you have symptoms like shakiness, you feel very fatigued, you feel the anxiety, you feel the hunger. So after all these symptoms arise, you will consume more food. And if the food you consume again is more on a carbohydrate, the vicious cycle will go again and again. So that's why you eat 6 times a day in my past video. And so if you haven't watched my first part of my video, you can click upwards here. I will link my first part of the video. You can watch the first part, then come back to this second part. So what are the 3 solutions for this sugar crash? Okay, my first solution will be controlling your macronutrients. Macronutrients are protein, fat, and carbohydrates. Personally, I've been using a ratio of about 60% fat, 50 to 60% fat, 30 to 40% protein, and I'll keep my carbohydrates to like 5 to 10%. So it's very low. You should always go for a ratio which suit your lifestyle and your activity level. My current ratio won't be very good if someone who is an athlete, or maybe if he or she is desk-bound, sedentary lifestyle. The most important thing is, after your meal, how do you feel? You have to find the sweet spot of your carbohydrate percentage. For me personally, I'm very good with 5%. Why you need the 5%? And someone might ask, why you do not just completely eliminate the carbohydrates? Yes, you can, but there's also studies that if you use a small amount of carbohydrates, it helps to control the sensitivity of your insulin. The sense of fullness or the satiety level of your body is largely depends on the amount of fat and protein you consume. When you consume a very high carbohydrate food, your satiety level won't be reached so easily. You tend to overeat more and more. So when you eat a very high carb diet, you tend to gain a lot of weight thereafter because you can't sense this fullness when you consume that much of sugar food. Do remember that don't count your calories. Okay, calories in is not equal to calories out. Okay, there's also a saying say you should eat less and move more. This equation, personally, I think is more like a starvation mode. When you eat less, your body will behave less. Less active. So for example, if someone is consuming 1,005, 1,006 calories, your body will be getting used, adapting to 1,006 calories activity level. You won't overconsume the energy because your body is always preserving itself. So if you're consuming 1,005, your body will behave 1,005 calories body. You won't have the extra energy to go for more activities. If you want to know more about this calories in, calories out, I will do another video in the future to talk more on this topic. You can use calories as a reference, but don't overdoing it. Okay, meaning that you do not need to really count your calories as in the amount of food you eat is equal to the energy you expend. Okay, the technology is not that advanced to calculate the energy expenditure of yourself based on the activity level, your body, and plus the metabolism inside you. So you can only gauge that amount, but you can't really have the exact value. So don't use calories as a marker for you to measure how much you should consume and how much you are actually expending. Solution 2 is to train your body to use your body fat. Our body is so used to burning sugar, glucose, and we have been taught since young by the health authority, the government, even by your doctors, that our body needs sugar to function. And the general guideline for food consumption is 60% carbohydrates. Yes, our body needs sugar, but it's only 5 grams per day. And do you know that our body is so smart that we can actually convert from protein to sugar through a process called gluconeogenesis? So now you'll be asking, how do I make my body to burn the fat? Imagine your body have 2 separate tanks. One being the sugar tank and the other is the fat tank. So if you're consuming a high sugar, high carbohydrates food, your tank for this sugar tank is always full. And once you use the energy, it gets lower and lower. But the moment you consume another meal, you kept refilling this tank. So this sugar tank is always full. And you are not utilizing the fat tank. So the fat tank, for me, it acts like a fat storage tank. You won't be using. So while eating a very high carbohydrate food, you tend to gain more and more and more. You'll be getting overweight and obese thereafter. In order to burn the fat tank, to utilize this energy, first you must empty this sugar tank. How do you empty this sugar tank? The easiest way is to control your carbohydrate intake to the minimum. You expand this sugar until it's empty, and you force the body to switch from this sugar to this fat tank. In the process of switching, you have to do it slowly also because your body needs training. Like for example, I'm 46. I'm so used of using this sugar energy for the past 40 years. So in order to switch this, you have to train your body. You have to tell your body to switch, how to use it efficiently, So you have to do it slowly. So when you have this ability to switch efficiently, that's when people say you are fat adapted. Okay, this term is very common when someone is doing ketogenic diet or carnivore diet. So you are being fat adapted because your body is so adapted that they can switch the different tank energy. Let's say if you consume a slightly higher carbohydrate, then you will switch to use the sugar first. Thereafter, when the sugar is empty, you will directly switch back to the fat tank. So that is why I keep my carbohydrates very low in order to do this switching very fast. Okay, for the number 3 solution is the very common intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting can be used regardless whether you are in ketogenic diet, carnivore diet, whole food, vegan, vegetarian. Intermittent fasting is actually everyone is doing without really realizing that they are actually doing. For example, if you have your last meal at 6 or 8 p.m. in the evening, and you wake up in the morning, say 7, and you consume your breakfast, your first meal at about 8 o'clock, you are actually fasting about 12 hours. Okay, plus minus, depends on which region you're staying. So personally, I do intermittent fasting for between 14 to 16 hours. But because currently I'm on a more protocol, the fasting window might vary because I have to consume the binder 4 times daily. Fasting is not equal to eating less. You have your first meal push later part of the day, and your last meal bring forward, bring closer. So you have a shorter window for your eating, and you have a longer window for your fasting. Personally, for me, sometimes I don't really go strict on the number of hours. I will just eat whenever I'm hungry. So for the past 6.5 years, I do not have breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I just eat whenever I feel there's a need. Like I mentioned just now, don't be too strict on your fasting hours. It doesn't mean that more is good. Okay, meaning that you fast every day 20 to 22 hours. Yes, you can do that maybe once a week, once a month, or maybe once every 3 months. For me personally, I did one 80 hours fast about 3 years ago, which initially I wanted to go for 100 hours. But that was maybe once a year. I don't do that very regularly. Even sometimes when I'm working, I don't have a time to eat. I'll just fast all the way. So sometimes I might unknowingly I fast for 24 hours, but doesn't matter because I'm fat adapted. So I can use the extra energy from my fat. Ladies who is on intermittent fasting is a little bit different because they have menstrual cycles. So if you want to do fasting, is okay, but try not to do it 1 week before your period comes. And if you want to know more about this women's and intermittent fasting, I will link in my description box below. There's a podcast which I listened. It's by Leanne Vogel. I think it's for Healthful Pursuit. You can learn more about this, whether or not when you should do this intermittent fasting, or how often, or when you should actually start and stop during this full month cycle. Okay, if you stay this far, I'll be adding on a bonus tip. That is tracking. How do you do your tracking? Food journal can be either done in digital or a notebook of any kind. The reason for doing food journal tracking is to track whatever new introductions to your nutrition, your diet. Can be a new food, can be a new supplements. If you are sick, can be something like a new medications. So what information am I referring to? The information can refer to after this new food. How do you feel after 1 to 2 hours? Do you feel a little bit off? Do you feel if your heartbeat is beating faster? You can write all this down. It's for your own reference. You can trace back when something happens. Let's say if you are sick and you visit your primary care provider, when you show him or her this journal, the book, okay, she or he can actually have more information whether or not the food you're taking is good for you or it's not good for you, it's not working, or maybe it's causing all these symptoms. Okay, with the medications, the supplements, whether or not they have clashing effects on each another. For new supplements, I usually tell my clients how to consume them. Do not follow their recommended daily dosage. The daily dosage is just based on, if you are someone who is getting used to these supplements and you have been consuming them for a long period of time. If you are new, just try the lowest dosage. If the bottle says take 2 capsules twice daily, you just go for 1 capsule, 1 times, first day. The second day, you will do 1 capsule in the morning, 1 capsule in the evening. So you slowly bring up the dosage. So for the third day, there may something look like if you will be taking 2 capsules in the morning, 1 capsule in the evening. And the fourth day will be exactly the recommended dosage. If let's say you have something going on the third day, meaning that you take 2 capsules and take 1 capsule in the evening, and you feel that you have something off, you can bring back the dosage down and stay the dosage for a period of maybe 3 days to 5 days. Then you slowly introduce back again. This is what we call the titration method. So don't go all the way to the max dosage. I give you an example. There's one chlorella. The daily dosage is 15 tablets. Okay, if you're someone that cannot tolerate 15 tablets and you finish off at one go at 15 tablets on the day one, and you have a lot of side effects, you won't know what is exactly wrong. Okay, for me, you just go for maybe just one tablet. Just try. Then the next day you go for another. You add more. You add to 2 tablets. Yes, it's very slow. Eventually, you have 15 tablets if you want to go for, say, 15 tablets. That's over about 2 weeks. A 2 weeks window for you to try, but it's so safe that you won't fear the immediate side effects if you just go for 15 tablets on day one. Alright? Like I mentioned just now, your food journal, this tracking system is very good for your primary care provider. If you are sick, they can actually trace back what you have eaten for the past 5 days, 7 days. The side effects, the supplementations, everything, they can look at all of it. It's also the same thing when you go for gym. If you engage a personal trainer, the personal trainer also needs to find out what's the frequency of your training, the duration of your training. All this can be written down in your food journal, the tracking system. It's not just about food. Can be your lifestyle, can be what you feel, how you feel after doing something. Okay, let's say for example, you feel that maybe in the mid-afternoon you feel something that your heartbeat is pumping very fast. You can just write down, on this day, you have this. But at the same time, when you have this mid-afternoon increased heartbeat, you can trace back morning what you have eaten. But if you do not have this food tracking system on hand, you don't keep track of anything, you won't know what exactly happened. Unless you are eating the same food, drinking the same beverage every day, which is not very common. So these are the 3 solutions I've given you, and we are coming to the end of the video. If you have any question, you can leave down in the comment section. I will go through them, and if there's a need for me to elaborate more on the question or the topic, I can do that on future videos. Okay? If not, see you. Bye.